back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
That's it.
Give me Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the 1796 Sports Podcast. Joined by Eli this evening, we'll be breaking down Tennessee versus Georgia. And probably more importantly, at this point, the college football playoff. And if we're feeling frisky, we might even touch on some basketball. But first things first, Tennessee heads down to Athens and does not come out on top, losing a 31-17 game to the Bulldogs. Eli, what are your feelings coming out of that game?
I was kind of optimistic at the end of the game. I mean, that's the first time I've seen Tennessee be competitive with Georgia in the Josh Heupel era, which is I think I'll take a win where I can get it. You were tied at the half. You were up early in the game at one point. That first drive we went down and scored, I knew it was going to be deceptive, but at the same time, I don't know. It looked like there was new life to the offense. Conservative play calling ended up costing us the game. Drop passes, penalties, the fumbles, and we don't know how to guard a tight end, and our defense was underwhelming. I basically just summarized how I felt about the game. So it was, we live for those matchups, and, at the end of the night, we were heartbroken, but at the same time, we still got a chance to maybe get some payback at the end of the season.
Yeah. I never thought at one point during that game that Tennessee didn't belong on the field with Georgia.
Absolutely.
It was a one-score game until Georgia went on their, 8-minute drive. I think it was, or 7 or 8 minute drive in the
From
fourth
about the
quarter.
5-yard line. We had them pinned back deep too. The defense just couldn't stop any. Georgia had their way. What do we have? Three real possessions in the second half. And for a team that operates as fast as we do, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, that's the most disappointing thing to me coming out of this one is the defense let us down. It seemed like Georgia had a terrific game plan. I mean, that didn't seem like it. They clearly did. And I think this needs to be said. I think it's important for people's, mental health right now. Sometimes you just get beat. It happens. It doesn't mean your program's a fraud. It doesn't mean nothing good will ever happen to the team you cheer for. It just means you got beat. And you got outcoached, and that happens. I mean, Tennessee outcoached Alabama. Mark Stoops outcoached Lane Kiffin. Kalen DeBoer outcoached Kirby Smart. It can happen. It happens. This is the best conference in America.
It's hard to win on the road in the SEC too, especially against a team that's coming off of a big loss and got their backs against the ropes. It's just not. It's not sustainable. But something that kind of I was saying this all week. We're only in year 4 of Josh Heupel, and you look at everyone's big on Kirby Smart. He made it to the national championship in his second year, but outside of that, he didn't make it back to the playoff till around year 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken. Which think about year 2 of Josh Heupel, we could have been in that playoff. So I think he's on a good trajectory, guys. I mean, we got to get the monkey off our back, which is Georgia. But at the same time, with the expanded playoff, you have a chance to recruit at a high level consistently, and make those type of games something to watch every year. I'd like to see us start going back and forth with Georgia. We got the Bama monkey off our back, but next is Georgia.
Yeah, 100%.
Or just the road. It seems the road it's hard to win on the road.
Yeah,
for Josh Heupel right now.
That's certainly the number one issue, and we can talk about other things, but right now the road issues are the most pertinent. But you talked about Kirby Smart going to the championship or the national championship game in his second season at Georgia. And like you said, Heupel probably should have been there if it wasn't for the road struggles in 2022. But he wasn't dealing with the scholarship reductions Heupel has dealt with. He wasn't dealing with a program that had 30 transfers. The week after he was came in, like he wasn't dealing with official visit reductions. It's pretty remarkable. Tennessee is where they're at, but it doesn't mean we can't talk about the shortcomings and stuff that I hope we get fixed. But coming back to the Georgia game in particular, let's just talk about some positives for a second.
I can start first and foremost. Dylan Sampson. I think he solidified himself as the best back in the SEC. He had his way. He can have his way with any team in the country, and that's gonna. If we do make it in the playoff, that's gonna be key, especially with the way Nico looked Saturday night. That was also a positive for me. He looked in control. He looked calm out there. It was just, possession time, and the defense kind of let us down.
Yeah, that obviously Nico and Dylan Sampson looked pretty good. The biggest thing to me about Nico was he just looked like he wasn't a freshman on the road for the first time this year. Even against Oklahoma, you could tell he was scrambling a little bit. He had the happy feet, but against Georgia, he was making quick decisions. When he had to run, he ran. And his only turnover, I really don't even count because it was,
I don't either. I'm not counting that.
Like, it doesn't. It was 4th and 6, and we were down by 2 scores. Like, he was just trying to make a play. I mean, it is what it is. But another thing that I was really happy with was considering that Sampson probably will be in the NFL draft this coming spring. I was really impressed with the carries that Peyton Lewis had. It was the first time that I've really seen him on TV because he hasn't really played in the other 2 road games, but he looks huge on TV. It's hard to notice when you're at the games, but and he ran hard. He 5 yards to carry, like he looked great.
Yeah, and he did. He looked great. I said at the beginning of the season he's going to be one of the best backs Tennessee's had in a while. Barring I didn't expect Dylan Sampson to have the season he has gone on to have, but Peyton Lewis is a big dude. He's got a lot of talent. He's super fast. But at times he does look like a freshman. It's that one thing about Dylan Sampson, he can block, and Peyton Lewis blocking on Saturday night was some of the worst I've seen. I think that was a downside to him. But at the same time, him being in that room with so many backs and Dylan Sampson pouring into that kid, it's going to be special with him. I think the Tennessee, it's kind of the same thing when we thought we lost Jalen Wright this year. I think we'll be just fine next year, especially if Nico takes a step forward like we expect him to do.
Yeah, 100%. I guess it's time to talk about what went wrong for Tennessee. We've already touched on it. I mean, the defense just had their worst game of the year.
Yeah, I think the difference in this game was explosive plays, and the defense gave up a lot, and the offense dropped theirs or got called back.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate, but like I said earlier, I think Georgia had a great game plan, and they went after our weakest point of the defense, which is the safeties.
Mm-hmm.
And they just spammed that all night, whether it be with Oscar Delp or Dominic Lovett. They were going over the middle, down the sidelines on wheel routes. They were carving up the safeties. And I think it was the first time this year that Will Brooks looks like a walk-on.
Yeah, no, the tight ends absolutely destroyed the Vols in this game. No, something we didn't expect. Their tight end play has been very underwhelming this season. Another thing, that our pass rush didn't look like it has all season. We weren't getting home. It's easy to harp on the safeties, but when he's got 6 seconds to stand in the pocket and just deliver a ball however far down the field. And Carson Beck, we've been raving on him. We raved on him last week. Everyone's been raving on him. He's talented enough to find the open receiver with 6 seconds time at home.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing going into the game and why he's looked so bad until Saturday night is that he is horrible under pressure, but we didn't get pressure. We didn't. I don't think we sacked him any.
We had 0 sacks. I think, Joshua Josephs and James Pierce were the only ones that got like some significant pressure. But, hang it up, man. Like the defense just didn't come to play this week. And I know that they can do better than what they put out on the field on Saturday. I've seen them do it. There's no reason they should have been shut down like they were.
No, and
penalties killed us too. There were some, the face mask on like third. It would have been like 3rd and 10, backed up into their territory. It would have been a great stop. That was BS. The Oscar Delp fumble. Another thing I gotta say is Heupel's got to be more aggressive, man. He got to pull the red flag out of his pocket sometimes. Like, I know that you would lose a significant timeout in a 1-possession game there, but at the same time, like, man, you got to take some risk when you're playing teams like Georgia.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I really think we would have got the fumble if he threw that red flag.
Yeah, I really like. I knew we were going to circle around to the refs at some point tonight. Like the
and I don't think that's why we lost the game.
I totally agree. I think it was not going to be Tennessee's night just based on how everything went, but it certainly didn't help. I don't think I've ever seen a referee, not let the defense substitute fully
and then call a penalty on the defense.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I haven't either. I mean, honestly, I didn't really think much of it at the time. But also like the false start that they didn't call when they ended up getting and then the funny part about that was he kind of threw like a 50-50 ball, and Jermon McCoy played probably the best defense he could play right there. And he just fit it between both of their hands. And it was like they caught it. They both caught it with one hand, and the receiver brought it in. And it was just like I think after that was when I was like, okay, this is just not our game. Like it's just not meant to be.
Yeah. That was the story of the night. I mean, Georgia got most of the breaks after the first quarter, whether it be the referees or just 50-50 plays, like you said. Talking about the lack of pressure, I think it's the first time this year that I felt like Tim Banks didn't do a good job of calling the game, because, like I said, Carson Beck is at his worst when he's under pressure, and we were either too prideful to not only rush 4 or thought that they could get home and we'd have people back there to get the interception if it did happen. But that didn't happen, and we just stuck to the same plan until the bitter end.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think you got to get pressure with 4 men so you can eventually send those heavy blitz packages, because you're going to have him on his heels. And he just was comfortable. And we know Tennessee's got they have a good pass rush, guys. Like, I think everyone still thinks that after this week. But, it was just a rough night for them. And they just, they haven't had a bad game all season. And I think it was just time. And, they can carry us. They've carried us all year. They've got us to the point where we are. So, I mean, we can harp on them as much as we want. But at the same time, like, they're the reason we're right here still talking about a college football playoff berth. Yeah,
for sure. You mentioned earlier, Heupel needs to take some chances, whether it be using that timeout to challenge the play or, just stalling the refs long enough or the booth long enough to have them even take a look at both of those plays that Georgia seemingly fumbled the ball. Like, that is certainly a part of it. But to me, the biggest deal or the biggest instance of Heupel being conservative was the first drive out of halftime. We had a 4th and 6 around their 40, and we tried to do the draw 'em offsides thing, and then we took the delay of game to give Jackson Ross more room. I really wish we would have gone for that 4th down
Or I
there.
think you honestly could have kicked the field goal too. That I think he could hit from 55 yards. I mean, he is a freshman, but at the same time, like he hit from 52 earlier in the game, and he had the leg to get it 55.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you got to be a little more aggressive there, man. Like that's how you win these games. You play aggressive.
especially when you're on the road.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
I mean, in Heupel's defense, it's how Tennessee has won games this year is playing to the defense. But Georgia just, like I said, had Tim Banks' number. They were always one step ahead, and it is what it is.
And I think the crazy thing about it is our defense is only going to get better. And I know you lose James Pierce this year and Joshua Josephs potentially, and Omari Thomas, but we've recruited at a high level there for some time, and you got some young guys, you got some young studs that they see the field, but they don't see the field as much. I don't think we're going to lose a step there. And then the secondary, I think we've shown this year that we can have a good secondary. So I think it's only up from here.
Yeah, we have some elite talent coming, and like you said, already on the team there. So I'm not too concerned long term about the defense, but the negatives about the offense, I think the biggest thing right now, and the reason we're not seeing downfield shots, number one is the way teams are choosing to play us defensively, with the dropping 6 guys back at all times. But the other thing that Tennessee can control is it just seems like the receivers aren't getting the separation necessary. Pretty much the only 2 receivers who showed up Saturday night were Squirrel White and Brew McCoy. And the only other receiver with the catch was Brazel on one of those little 5-yard curls. Like, it just was a pretty quiet night from the receiver room.
Yeah, I think year 2 Brazel's going to be good, but I'd say throw a freaking bag at like an Antoine Wells this offseason. Go get an elite wide receiver. Go sure up that position. That is important to have in the Heupel offense. Someone that you can rely on late in the game. Like, we talked about how good Deontay Thornton is. He was not present at all. And he didn't have a single catch, and he had a huge drop that ended up completely stalling a drive. Whereas we could have had that momentum, stuff like that. The squirrel, I think Squirrel White jumps for every ball. I don't get that. He's been doing that since his freshman year. I don't understand why he has to jump in the air every time. But I think this offseason you go get an elite wide receiver, transfer in the portal.
Yeah, either that or you hope that Mike Matthews is as advertised.
Mm-hmm.
The thing, like, you're 100% correct about Squirrel White. He just cannot seem to make a catch without leaving his feet, and it cost him a catch on one of them.
Yeah, I still think that was PI either way, but at the same time, he had a good game.
Like, he did.
Squirrel was probably our best receiver in that game, besides Miles Kitzelman.
Yeah,
he was kind of reliable. He had a big drop though, but that's a hard catch, man. That is a hard catch to make.
Yeah, and then there was a play over the middle too, where Squirrel dove, jumped in the air as always, and then the ball scraped on the ground as he was falling to the ground.
Yeah, I think it was a catch, and they didn't review it, but
yeah.
I don't know, man. I thought, stuff like that. It's like I was sitting on the couch. I was sitting in my garage with my dad, and I just kind of like started looking because I was expecting them to review it, and I look up and like the offense is going again. I was like, hey, like I know y'all want to operate quickly, but like, hey, those are big catches. You need those.
Yeah,
I really think Squirrel caught that ball.
Yeah. The Squirrel, whenever he jumps and when he's catching a ball over the middle, he's gonna get himself badly hurt. Like he's very close to getting assassinated every time he does that.
That doesn't translate to the NFL at all, too.
No,
So if
I
he's
mean,
trying to impress somebody, he's so fast that if he catches the ball in stride, which I get he's short, he can actually be one of the most dangerous people after the catch in the NCAA, but I guess he just doesn't want to do that.
even the ball he caught against Mississippi State for his first touchdown of the year, he jumped for that one when he was wide open and fell to the ground. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Body catches aren't reliable. You got to use your hands. And I know that's what he's just trying to secure the catch, and that's what's most important, but man,
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he probably was the best receiver Saturday night, but it's not insane to ask for better from him and the rest of that room. Um, it's just
I'd say the wide receiver room has been the most disappointing part of this football team this year.
yeah, yeah. It's
We thought it was going to be one of the best in the SEC, and it just hasn't been.
yeah, and like I said, it might have a lot to do with the way defenses are playing, but
Yeah,
I still feel like it's not unreasonable to ask for better.
I find it crazy that I sat here at the beginning of the year and said that the the running back room is probably our worst position group, when in reality, I think after Saturday night, it's our best, and that includes the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, and just think if we had Deshaun Bishop on Saturday night.
Yeah, it sucks not having a guy like that. And another thing, speaking of running backs, this is kind of off topic. Our defense defended their run game well. Carson Beck had a few scampers, but other than that, like they had just over 106 yards rushing. I mean Carson Beck kind of had a couple scampers. I think I already said that, but yeah, like we did a great job defending the run on Saturday night, which is another thing to look at. You know, that's upside. Like we were competitive with Georgia.
Yeah, if you told me that we were going to make them pretty much exclusively a passing team until that last drive, like I would have thought Tennessee would have won the game. But apparently that was the key to their success, was just protecting Beck and letting him make the plays. And like you said earlier, he can make the plays when he has 4 or 5 seconds every time he drops back. But you have any more big thoughts on how that game went down Saturday night?
Yeah, I think I want them again. I think we can beat them. I do think we can beat Georgia. I think Heupel kind of learned, for the first time he's had the athletes to compete with him. I think that he learned how to play them. I think Tim Banks is going to have a better game plan going into this next game, in which, Georgia could be improved at that time, but, seeing them in a neutral site will be a lot more beneficial. The offense can operate more. You can kind of be a little more aggressive. I want Georgia again, and I hope we get to see them.
Ooh, that would be interesting for sure on a neutral site. And I guess we would have to win a playoff game for that to happen.
Yeah, I think it would have to take place in the semis, to be honest.
Yeah, you would think so.
Which is possible, man. The way it was shaping up, I saw Bama, winner of Ole Miss, Tennessee play Bama, and I think we're good enough to compete with both of those teams.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we'll go ahead and hop into it. New playoff rankings dropped about 2 hours ago. Tennessee comes in ranked number 11, but due to automatic bids and the Boise State being the best group of 5 team that would also secure an automatic bid, Tennessee sits right now as the first team out of the playoffs. I have so much to say about this, but I'll let you give your overall thoughts first, Eli.
I guess I get it, but I hate the favorite. I hate the Big Ten getting favored so much. It just doesn't register well in my brain. I still don't get the Indiana logic. They're 10-0, but at the same time, their best win is who? 5 and potentially bowl game missing Michigan. Um, and then they ranked Illinois to justify Penn State being as high as they are. Even Greg McElroy said it on the cast. I don't know if you picked up on that. They're like, oh, they're just doing that to justify Penn State being as high, and they giggled, but he was being dead serious. Yeah, most SEC teams are 10-2, so I kind of get them being a little lower. But yeah, I mean, they showed us with the ranking last week. Like, you have to beat Georgia in order to be in the ranking next week.
Yeah. Just on the surface, I think we're pretty lucky to only have moved down 4 spots. But the number one problem I have, and it just makes no sense to me, is how, at least for right now, and we know that these things can change on a whim based on the playoff committee and the 4-team playoff, but at least for right now, they are saying that Notre Dame is better than every SEC team except Texas. And I'm currently sitting here watching Northern Illinois get ass hammered by Miami of Ohio, who beat Notre Dame in South Bend. Notre Dame moved up 2 spots for what exactly? Like they beat Virginia by 3 scores. Congratulations. Who cares? Virginia's terrible. Joe Milton killed Virginia. Like I don't know what even to say about
They're
Notre
looking at
Dame.
that Louisville win. Of course, the Texas A&M win at the beginning of the season, which I mean, yeah, that's a big win. But also, I do think, I think if Army, if they don't take them down this week, I do think they're going to lose to USC, which would greatly benefit everyone, because I don't think anyone wants to see Notre Dame in the freaking playoffs.
It's so annoying that they get by with their schedule that they put out every year, that they craft to where they're not playing any terrible teams, but they're never playing anybody who's really elite. And then if they win 10 or 11 games, they're always in the conversation, which is dumb. Florida State's awful. Navy is pretty good. That I would say Navy.
I don't know. Navy got shut out by Tulane last week.
Yeah, I mean, and Tulane beat up.
Navy lost to Rice the next week, and then I don't think Navy's that good. I don't think Army's that good. So that's just going to be another feather on their cap coming up. I guess the only way, I think you're gonna need Notre Dame to lose to USC, which would be, I mean, it can happen. USC beat LSU this year.
Yeah, it's Navy lost to Tulane, like you just said, and Tulane lost to Oklahoma. I'll move off of Notre Dame, but it's just insane that they are even being considered after losing to Northern Illinois at home, which is far and away the worst loss that anybody has who is in the top 12. But moving,
I think something to watch if we'll move into I think you were going to bring up Indiana next. We need them to lose in big fashion to Ohio State and Columbus this week. I think if they lose by more than 14 points, they should be out of the playoff. If I'm not just from my personal point of view, and I think you're going to see, like, there's no way they're going to. I don't think you can put them in over any 2-loss SEC team.
Well, they haven't beaten anybody, and the one good team they're going to play, if they lose by a substantial margin, I totally agree. Like, it's stupid that they are just holding down that 5 spot, and we talked about this last week too, because it hasn't changed. But 4 of the top 5 teams being from the Big Ten is nonsense. But I wanted to talk about I can totally buy that Alabama and Georgia deserve to be ahead of Tennessee right now. I can buy that. I don't have a problem with that. But Alabama's getting a boost from a ranked win that shouldn't be a ranked win anymore. Um, I don't know how Missouri loses and doesn't move down a single spot. I'm convinced the only reason they're still in that ranking is for Alabama to still have another ranked win. Um,
They
but
had that South Carolina win, which looks good. South Carolina's a good football team.
the thing is, they would only have 2 ranked wins now if Missouri was not in the top 25, which they shouldn't be.
Well, and I don't even want to get into it. Ole Miss has the worst loss in the playoff by
And
far.
I think the second worst. Notre Dame to Northern Illinois is still the worst. To
Well,
me.
yeah, that slipped my mind. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't happen. But anyways, yeah, I think losing at home to Kentucky and also LSU. That LSU loss is looking worse and worse every week. I think LSU could lose to Vanderbilt this week.
Yeah, 100%.
And if they do, I just their 2 losses. The LSU losses. Did they play Arkansas?
LSU beat Arkansas by
I'm pretty
20.
sure. Yeah, I was about to see
Yeah,
they blew them out. Yeah, that Arkansas loss it's holding us down. But man, Arkansas played Texas good, who also doesn't deserve to be as high as they are.
yeah. I think the committee listed Texas's 2 best wins this year as Vanderbilt and Arkansas, and then they're going to list Arkansas as one of our bad losses.
Here's the crazy thing, and I don't think Tennessee fans. I think I'm going to be pretty angry about it if Texas loses to Texas A&M, and the SEC somehow finds a way to get 5 bids, and they leave Tennessee out instead of Texas. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That is absolutely ridiculous. They had their best win would be Vanderbilt, who Tennessee would beat, and they don't have a ranked win. Tennessee they beat a common opponent, and I guess Texas beat the common opponent in Arkansas, but I just think Tennessee's resume outweighs Texas's.
Well, the thing is, you don't deserve to make it without a quality win.
I agree.
Like it's stupid. Like Tennessee has a quality win, Georgia has a couple quality wins, Alabama has probably the most of any SEC team if you consider South Carolina a quality win. I don't consider Missouri a quality win anymore. But Texas, if that happened, would their best win would be Vanderbilt. Like it's nonsense. Like
Yeah.
I truly believe though that all this will shake itself out. I think Ole Miss has a good chance of losing to Florida this weekend. And Georgia Tech is not going to be. I'm pretty sure Georgia still plays Georgia Tech, right?
Yeah.
Georgia Tech's not going to be easy in the last week of the season for Georgia. Like,
I mean, Ole Miss has Florida this weekend. That's a big game to watch.
And God knows what will happen in the Iron Bowl. It always seems to be a crapshoot. So, hopefully, and if whatever other Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss podcast is talking about the same thing we are, they're probably considering Vanderbilt a tough game for us, which it is. But everything we're talking about is assuming Tennessee wins their last 2 games and takes care of business pretty handily. So
yeah. And I think right now you just want to get in. I don't even look home, no matter what. Just get in, man. I think you can win if you get in. I think you can go far if you get in. I think it's pretty even this year. Oregon showed that they're the number 1 team in the country, and they showed that multiple times this season that they're not I don't think they deserve the number 1 title. I don't think they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, I will give Oregon credit for being undefeated and playing 8 straight conference games, which they just finished. I think that's pretty remarkable that they went 8 weeks in a row of conference games.
Beating Ohio State is impressive, but that is, Boise. They're giving them that they're going to run with that Boise win. But other than Ohio State, man, like they haven't really played anyone that I don't think that impresses me. I guess, we think about Wisconsin, who they had on the ropes. Wisconsin had them on the ropes Saturday night. Bama blew them out pretty easily, had their way with them.
I mean, it just
Wisconsin
is,
with a backup quarterback. Sorry.
yeah. It just is the the difference in the SEC and the Big Ten. I think like I know the Alabama win over Wisconsin was almost 9 weeks ago now, but
Yeah.
it's still relevant. Like you have to surely like when you're talking about a playoff, a 12-team playoff, you have to take into account the whole season. It doesn't matter how long ago it was.
No, and they won't.
Yeah, it's you hope they will because it's going to benefit Tennessee a lot. I think right now the reason Tennessee is ranked 11th is because of recency bias.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have 3 weeks till the decision. I think if you blow Vanderbilt out, that shows the committee something.
I think that's this whole scenario, everything we've talked about in the last few minutes. Like the most important thing is Tennessee winning, like undoubtedly winning. Like it needs to be pretty convincing. And if they are, I think Tennessee gets in without a doubt. I think if you beat, obviously you're going to beat UTEP. We're a 42-point favorite, but you need to number one score as much as possible against UTEP until it becomes sad. And
Which
then
I think that's going to happen.
it really needs to. Like it kind of irks me against Mississippi State when we didn't try to score that last touchdown. But anyway, and then you really need to at least cover the spread against Vanderbilt. Like I think the spread will be Tennessee probably minus 13.5 if I was guessing right now.
Mhm.
But I think you at least need to cover that, and you probably need to win by 3 scores.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. You're going to need some help still, though. I think. I still think you're going to need help. They've shown a tendency to just not like us, man. They don't like our offense this year, and then our defense this weekend gave them a reason not to like them either.
Yeah, it's. I think the overall body of work, if Tennessee does take care of business, should be enough. I'm going to believe that until we are sitting outside of the 12-team playoff.
Yep.
So, you have any more thoughts on the playoff rankings?
That's about all I got.
All right. I want to hit on basketball for a few minutes because I'm feeling pretty good about the team. I know the last 2 opponents were, just lame duck opponents. No offense to Bryce's alma mater, Austin P, but Tennessee did go out and take care of business. And the biggest thing to me in the last 2 games for Tennessee basketball is I said it during the Montana game last Wednesday. I think Igor Milicic might be the straw that stirs the drink this year for Tennessee basketball.
Yeah, and he looked great against Austin P too. That was kind of like just watching it with my eyes. I was like, okay, yeah, he's going to be good this year. You'd like to see a little bit more from Dubar. Oh wait, not Dubar, but big center. I'm blanking on his name.
Okpara.
Yeah, Akpar. I got him confused. Yeah, Dubar will be back soon. This is deep. I think we're deeper than we were last year. We have a good basketball team.
Yeah, and Ziegler, I think, has finally learned how to throw a lob pass.
Lanier's an elite scorer.
Yeah, and I think the post depth is better. There's a lot of good things, and Tennessee will play another quality opponent on Thursday night down in the Bahamas when they play Virginia. So
yeah, they'll turn around Friday night and play the winner or loser of Baylor and Seton Hall, which are 2 ranked teams. So that'll be a potential quad 1-2 win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and we'll find out a lot more about the basketball team this weekend. But I'm feeling pretty good. I think there's a lot of athleticism, a lot of talent, and I think the more they play, the better they'll look. And that's about it for basketball. Moving on to the ladies now, I want to shout out Kim Caldwell for taking care of business as well early in the season and killing it on the recruiting trail too.
Yeah, I
So,
don't follow the Lady Vols much up until the postseason, but I've been seeing they've been killing it on the recruiting trail. Been following that on Twitter. I always love to see any Vol team succeed. And Kim Caldwell is looking like I've heard really good things about her so far this year.
yeah, the style of play is exciting. The pressing and the putting up like 60, 70, 80 shots a game. Like, it's going to be fun to watch Lady Vols whenever you get a chance this year. So,
Now I'll have to tune in.
yeah. But that should do it, man. Unless you have anything else.
That's all I got, man. Hey, go Vols. Lightning in a bottle in the playoff this year. We get hot. Hey, look, they always said, at the beginning of the year, man, Tennessee, you catch them late in the season, they get hot late in the season, could be dangerous.
One can hope. I'm an eternal optimist. And the last thing I'll say, I said it to you on Saturday night. Like, even if we don't make the playoffs, 10-2 with a freshman quarterback is pretty remarkable. And whenever you're playing in the SEC, so.
And I think it's going to be rare to go 10-2 and not make the playoffs in the future too. To be fairly honest with you,
I 100% agree. So, all right, man, go Vols.
Go Vols, brother.